Everyone in the grand ballroom was laughing, their tuxedos crisp, their gowns glimmering beneath the massive chandelier. No one noticed the girl standing outside in a faded blue dress, her eyes full of tears and determination. Emily Grace clutched a worn purse in her hand and looked up at the building that bore her father's name, Wallace Grand Hall. She whispered to the security guard, "I just want to see him. Just once." But the man didn't look up. No entry without an invitation. He didn't know, and neither did anyone else, that the man being honored that night, billionaire Richard Wallace, was her father. If you're watching this story right now, ask yourself, what would you do if the person who gave you life denied your existence? Stay with us until the end. Her story will touch your soul. If it moves you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful kindness stories. Emily's mother, Linda Grace, once worked as a server at an upscale beach resort in Miami. That's where she met Richard Wallace, charming, powerful, and completely out of reach. But for one summer, he treated her like she was his world. That is, until he returned to New York and disappeared from her life entirely. A few weeks later, Linda found out she was pregnant. She wrote him letters, sent emails, even contacted his company, Wallace Enterprises. But her calls were ignored. Eventually, she stopped trying. Emily was born into a world of struggle. Her mother raised her alone in a tiny one-bedroom apartment in a rundown part of Tampa. Linda worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. And yet, Emily never complained. Every birthday, she asked the same question. "Mom, do you think he ever wonders about me?" Linda always replied softly, "Maybe not now, sweetheart. But one day, the truth will catch up to him." At school, Emily was a straight-A student. Quiet. Focused. But poverty painted every corner of her life, hand-me-down clothes, skipping meals, using the library because they couldn't afford internet. At 17, her world fell apart when Linda became gravely ill. The hospital bills started piling up, and Emily did everything she could, tutoring kids, shelving books at the library, even cleaning homes on weekends. In desperation, she sent a letter to Richard Wallace again. This time, she included a photo of herself. It read, "She's dying. I'm your daughter. Please, help us." Weeks passed. No reply. Her mother died that winter. Emily sat alone beside the hospital bed, holding Linda's hand long after her heart had stopped. She found an old photo of Richard and Linda tucked into a Bible drawer. As she held it against her chest, she whispered, "You may not want me, but the world will know I existed." Emily packed her things and moved to Chicago. She worked as a receptionist during the day and studied business administration online at night. She barely made rent. Some nights, she went to sleep hungry. But she never stopped pushing. At 23, she won a scholarship to study in London. There, she cleaned offices and worked in coffee shops to pay her way. But her professors saw something in her, something extraordinary. One of them said, "You've got the grit of a leader, Emily." By 25, she had launched an online platform called Linda's Light, a nonprofit supporting single mothers in crisis. Inspired by her mother's life, the platform quickly went viral. Donations poured in. Interviews followed. Speaking invites. Awards. Emily stood on stages in Paris, Toronto, New York, sharing her story, not to ask for sympathy, but to show the power of choosing kindness over bitterness. One morning, she received a gold-trimmed envelope. It was from Wallace Enterprises. Richard Wallace was hosting an elite business summit in Los Angeles, and she had been selected as one of the keynote speakers. Emily froze. It was him. The same man who ignored her. Who never called. Who let her mother die alone. She thought of declining. But then her mother's voice echoed in her memory. One day, the truth will catch up to him. She booked her ticket. The summit was everything you'd expect: red carpet, media flashes, billionaires in designer suits. Emily walked in wearing a simple white dress, her hair tied back, and her mother's locket around her neck. When it was her turn, she walked up to the stage with quiet grace. She began her speech, speaking not just with words, but with her heart. And then, she said it. My father is in this room tonight. He doesn't know me. Never replied to my letters. Never held my hand when I was scared. But I'm not here to shame him. I'm here to thank him. Because his absence made me strong. His silence gave me a voice. And today, I'm using it for every girl who has ever felt invisible. The room was stunned. People whispered. Reporters gasped. In the front row, Richard Wallace's face went pale. For the first time, he looked like a man without power. Emily didn't look at him. She finished her speech, stepped off stage, and disappeared backstage. The next morning, her assistant handed her a note. It was from Richard. I've been watching you from afar for years, ashamed of the man I was. Your mother tried to reach me. I wasn't brave enough to face it. But I see you now, Emily. And I'm proud of you. If you ever want to meet me, my door is open. Emily folded the note quietly and placed it inside her mother's locket. She never replied. A few months later, Emily used her savings and a surprise anonymous donation to open the Invisible Daughters Center in Tampa. It became a refuge for young girls abandoned by their families, and for single mothers trying to survive. When asked by a reporter why she never reconnected with her father, she smiled and said, "He had his chance. I'm giving it to others now." Richard continued to anonymously fund her charity. Whether out of guilt or redemption, no one ever knew. 3 years later, Emily was diagnosed with leukemia. She didn't tell anyone outside her closest circle. She continued giving speeches, mentoring girls, running programs, until one day, she collapsed at an event in Boston. The world found out. Tributes flooded social media. Her story trended worldwide. News anchors wept telling it. Richard rushed to the hospital. For the first time in her life, he sat beside her, held her hand, and cried. "I'm sorry I was late," he whispered. Emily, frail but still glowing, looked at him with peaceful eyes and said, "Maybe. But at least, you came." She passed away 2 days later. Emily Grace died at 32. The world mourned. Murals of her were painted in cities across America. Her quotes were printed in schools, shelters, and journals. Her foundation grew across continents. Richard never spoke publicly again. But every year on her birthday, a bouquet of white lilies was left at the center she built, with a card signed, "Dad." In her personal journal, Emily had written, "We don't get to choose our parents. But we get to choose who we become. Let rejection be the soil where your courage grows. Let silence push you to speak. And if your heart breaks, let the light pour out for others to see." If this story moved you, please share it with someone who needs hope. Like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Let's spread kindness, and the legacy of those who chose to rise, even when the world turned its back on them.